Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies. We're live and in color on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. It is I, the maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, the Reverend, the Dragon, Dan Wilson, the host of the Midnight Black Mass podcast, alongside my co-host, partner in crime, and fellow nefarious individual, the Southeastern Strangler, Andrew Alexander. How are you, friend?
I'm doing good. The host with the most and the host with the least. And I don't know what words you just used to describe me. I don't even know what that word means.
Get a dictionary, pal.
Why would I buy a dictionary? I got a Google.
That's true. It is 2016, which is going to be the topic of the day today here on the program. But hope everybody's doing well. I want to introduce, of course, our producer who'll be chiming in as well with us tonight, the founder of the Beyond Ringside Feast, ProWrestlingRadio.net, Fast Eddie Lane. How's it going?
It has been a phenomenal week.
That's good. It's been a quite scary week in the world, but, you know, I live in the wrestling world, and so we try to, as the old WWE saying goes, put smiles on faces, but, you know, in all seriousness, like, you don't think what we do is important, because it really doesn't seem that way in many cases, you know, in the grand scheme of life. But then you see all this stuff going on in the world and people killing each other just left and right over stupidness, and just, it's really unfortunate, but we provide that distraction to people to just escape all of that chaos and just have a good night out and yell and scream at some people and get their frustrations out and cheer for who they like to cheer for. And so, you know, I've had some reflection, and, you know, when you think what we do is pretty minuscule and minute in the big picture of the universe, maybe it isn't.
When you say what we do you mean the wrestling business or the podcast business, or a little of both?
Both.
It's all tied in together now, isn't it?
It's all one big jambalaya of affairs.
Hey, baby, I'm in one business. The Rev Dan Wilson business.
Would you say business is good?
I say right now it's pretty damn good, yeah. Actually.
Well,
could be better. Could always be better.
Always be better.
But it's okay over in my neck of the woods right now. I'm tired, boys. I'm tired. Working, down in Platinum Championship Wrestling this weekend, managing the Strong Style Psycho Tank in Porterdale, Georgia, in front of a packed house there at the Main Event Arena on Main Street in Porterdale, Georgia. Big main event, first time ever matchup. The Strong Style Psycho Tank against wrestling's most dangerous weapon, Jeter. You saw my interview on the interwebs. Over 1,000 of you did, and I thank you. because you showed up in droves in Porterdale to see the match, and oh, what a fight it was, gentlemen, what a fight it was. Now, I do have to say the Tank was slightly robbed at the end. I did not think that was the decisive ending to that fight the people were looking for. Jeter beat him on a technicality. He did not pin the man. It was just a simple situation where both of them went down, and Jeter made it to his feet first, and so he was declared the winner by knockout for whatever that's worth. But I think Tank's got another match in the tank, so to speak, to use a terrible pun, against Jeter. One more time, it's going to happen somewhere, whether it be Porterdale, whether it be elsewhere in the state of Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina. I don't care, but the match needs to happen again, because Tank's got a little something more for the big effing deal, Jeter. He was very impressive, no doubt, but if he thought he was going to get away, and he tried to offer Tank the handshake of respect after the match, because it was a tremendous, hard-fought contest, except for that business there at the end. But, Tank is not exactly the most sportsmanlike loser, and so he just gave him a little one-finger salute in response, and we bailed. Because when life gives you lemons, to quote the great Mitch Hedberg, fuck those lemons and bail.
That is a good line. Man. Hey, let's digress just for a second, man. Mitch Hedberg, how awesome was he? I miss that guy. Like, he didn't have the run that he could have had because he was fucking hilarious.
He was a favorite. Just one-liners for days. His act was not like any superstars. I mean, some of it was thought-provoking, but it wasn't like Bill Hicks, trying to examine the concepts of space and time wrapped in a comedy performance. But it was pretty next-level shit. Yeah, on one hand, it was kind of comedy that you don't have to think about, but I mean, he had to think about that stuff. The stuff was so off the wall and random that there had to be some method to the madness. Of course, then again, it could just been a lot of drug use. So I don't know the thought process of when you're extremely high. Maybe these ideas come to you a lot easier.
They do.
So maybe that was the case there, but he was definitely awesome, and I love those one-liners. But I did hear the match with Tank and Jeter was a pretty damn good match, especially two big men. When you get two big men of that size, there's a fine line. The match can either be the absolute drizzling shit, or it can just be electric from start to finish. And I heard it was the latter, and I definitely assumed that it was as well, knowing Tank alone. But I've heard great things of Jeter over the past couple of 2 or 3 years, so I'm sure it was awesome to see.
Well, Jeter is the PCW champion, and I take nothing away from what he did in the ring, that's for sure. Tank is a guy that likes to be hit hard, because that's just getting him started. That's just foreplay for Tank. If you can really slap him around and wake him up, then he's really going to get in there and tangle with you. If not, he's just going to eat you for lunch. But in this case with Jeter, Jeter towers over Tank, by several inches, and probably has a few pounds on him as well. And these two guys are in there moving like cats. But everything deliberate, and the swords were committed to purpose, we will say, in this particular encounter. And so, I definitely hope Tank gets him in the ring again, because it's not over, not by a long shot. I'll be back to Platinum Championship Wrestling in the month of September. I got off to a great start there, joining the Cornerstone, dominating, of course, being in association with the guy who founded the company, who has its benefits. They take wonderful care of you. You get your own separate locker room when you're in the Cornerstone, away from all of the slime on the card. and you really just you get treated with class. And so I'm excited to go back to PCW, and I'll be back there in the month of September as they get ready for their huge event on September 17th, Sacred Ground, the biggest PCW event of the year. And the Strong Style Psycho might just be coming with me. So there's that. So that's you can check out. You actually see the match on my Facebook page, Rev Dan the Dragon Wilson, and the link is there in full. Platinum does a wonderful job of turning around their product and getting it out to the fans the next day, and it's all right there on the Facebook page for you to see. So, Fast Eddie Lane, any questions about that encounter that you might have had lurking in that brain of yours?
Actually, do me a favor. Sacred Ground is going to be when now?
September the 17th.
I may just take that day off. I have been promising myself that I would make it out to a Sacred Ground live event from PCW, and I have friends who have worked it, friends who have gone to it, and everybody always talks about what a blast it is at Sacred Ground. So I'm promising myself, regardless of the situations in play, I'm going to try to get a day off and make it over to that one. Now, I've heard a lot of great things about some of the things that PCW's had over the last year, and this past weekend having an opportunity for Tank and Jeter. I mean, I'm pretty sure that people in the 5th row registered the percussion and concussion from the shots, because Tank's a hard hitter, just like Jeter. And this is one where if there is a replay available down the road, I want to see it.
Oh, they were laying the lumber. I mean, you look at guys, a punch in a multitude of modern independent wrestlers' offense is quite a meaningless trope. It's there to hold place until they can get to the next Hurricane Rana, and that's fine if that's what you do, but you're wasting a very valuable tool in your toolbox, and Tank and Jeter just happened to use those tools with maximum efficiency, and they were pounding each other. You could hear the crack of the fist against flesh. You could see the sweat flying, and you could almost feel a sonic boom when one of them collided and the other hit the mat. It was really that impressive. And the people, don't believe me, don't listen to me, don't even take my word for it. Go watch the footage. It's there. You can see the reaction from the rabid audience, those people in Porterdale. And you go down there, you might want to not tell them you hang with me, Fast Eddie Lane, because I'm not a very popular individual down there.
Oh, that's no problem in the least. I will never betray alliances. I will never betray friends. I'll betray my credit card company. F them.
Well, just be wearing a flak jacket then, just to be on the safe side. Oh, but I've got a busy summer. I am all over the place, gentlemen. August alone, that's why I won't be back to PCW. August 5th and 6th, I will be in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the Scenic City Invitational Tournament, doing some commentary alongside Al Getz, also coming in from CWS Mid-Atlantic, the great Brad Stutz, and from Combat Zone Wrestling, Emil J. Going to be joining us on an all-star commentary team for that two-night extravaganza. 16 of the greatest wrestlers in the United States of America converge on Chattanooga, Tennessee, with only one winner of the Scenic City Invitational Part 2, the second annual event. And we got fans coming in from all over the country and even beyond. Dude, we got fans coming from Canada, Florida, Virginia, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Texas, California, and I think there's probably several I'm missing, but this is a can't-miss event. The whole wrestling, we're going to be like a little mini WrestleMania weekend in Chattanooga, Tennessee. How fucking cool is that?
Awesome is the
word. Yeah,
word.
man, that's awesome. I'm fairly excited about it. Give me maybe one or two picks. Who do you think could win this thing?
Oh, I think the smart money's probably on Chris Hero. He's won more of these types of tournaments than anybody, so if you're a Vegas odds type of guy, you're looking at just percentage of victory. Hero is definitely a guy up there, but then you've got Matt Riddle, the up-and-comer, who's probably the best rookie of all time and still even one of the top 5 to 10 wrestlers in the world currently in many people's eyes. And, you know, he's got this little of experience, plus he's got the UFC background. With his momentum, he's going to be a hard one to beat. So if I'm going 1 and 2 picks, I'm going to go Hero and Riddle. And then my dark horse pick would be one young Gunnar Miller, now protéged by Jeff G. Bailey, mentored by Jeff G. Bailey, should I say, the protege of. And Gunnar is just on this wave of momentum. He's tearing through PCW, Southern Fried Championship Wrestling, Cornelia. He teared through Empire. And of course, now Why We Wrestle in Cornelia, he's just defeated Tank as of most recently. And, you know, he will be facing off against Michael Judas, who he's also got in the first round of the SCI at Summer of Hate on July 30th. The first ever Why We Wrestle Summer Spectacular, the first ever Why We Wrestle uniquely branded supercard. If you recall, going back to the history of the arena, Hardcore Hell was the big deal in the Wild Side days. And then Hardcore Hell stayed when Anarchy took over, but Hostile Environment became their big thing because they wanted something that uniquely identified them. And so with Why We Wrestle, keeping Hardcore Hell, but Summer of Hate will now be the new annual Summer Spectacular and the first uniquely branded event for Why We Wrestle that occurs on a regular basis. So that's coming up July 30th. Huge card there. The Why We Wrestle champion set to defend against Anthony Henry. The Why We Wrestle champion is the Lethal Dose Strychnine, who was our guest last week on the program. And Anthony Henry, you know, managed by the daughter of the Messiah, the Spinebuster, David Young, Amber Young. His girlfriend in the Lethal Lovers combination had much success over at PWX in the Charlotte area. Have also traveled all over the country together and coming in a strong contender to Strychnine. That's going to be huge. Why We Wrestle tag team titles in a 3-way dance going to be on the line. It's going to be James Drake and Billy Buck, the rather new team who's had a damned impressive showing in this tournament, against the Hooligans, the FIP tag team champions. I believe they're also the AIW tag team champions. They hold probably more tag team championships currently than any team in independent wrestling, and they're going to try to take another one for their trophy case. Which is probably made out of natural light boxes, but that's okay because I wouldn't expect anything else. And then also the former NWA World Tag Team Champions, former Ring of Honor, I believe they were Tag Team Champions. If not, they were heavily featured out there for many years, and still currently one of the best tag teams in the world, the Dark City Fight Club, Corey Chavis and John Davis. Ooh. And that's going to be a hell of a fight, gentlemen.
That was me on the part. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm excited to hear the outcome of that because, you know, I think Billy Buck is a guy that, you know, he hasn't been in a tag team situation in several years, but this man is just. I know he's really coming to his own in the state of Georgia in the southeast area, but this is one of the most underrated guys in the country. Any company. Really, I would say in the world, not even just the country. And so I'm very curious to see what will happen in that match. I'm picking him just because he's a personal favorite of mine. I don't even know much about his tag partner, but I'm looking for them to walk out the tag champs. And actually, Billy Buck is, if I had to pick 2 or 3 guys for that Scenic City, I'm picking him because I think he's a little bit of an unknown to a lot of the competition in that, and he's going to surprise people in it.
And he will be in action as well, and he's got the opportunity to take his name further. He's a guy that has dominated the Southeast in a couple of places, but has never really spread his wings. He's beside being one of the best talents out there, in my opinion. That guy, it's like if you took Dusty Rhodes and Shawn Michaels and kind of made them one wrestler who was from Georgia, then that would be Billy Buck. Because he's got many of the Shawn Michaels strengths in his style, but also, you know, he's He's not afraid to flip-flop and fly as a cowboy, and he's managed to maintain the support of the fans in Cornelia for years and years, so now he's got the opportunity to win over a whole new audience.
And when you say we just want to let the fans know that may not be familiar with him, he's got a lot of similarities with Shawn Michaels in the fact that he has a lot of heart and he never gives up and he just brings the fight. He's perfected the super kick. However, he is not a sexy boy.
I mean, not to a traditional demographic, but he's certainly proven that he's got his admirers.
Well, that he does.
So that's all we'll say about that. And of course, while we wrestle, I'm trying to think of what else has actually been signed. I have some inside information on some other bouts, but I'm not at liberty to disclose everything just yet. But you will find out the remainder of the matches on July 23rd in Cornelia, Georgia, at Why We Wrestle for a huge card we got coming up. It's just this next Saturday night. It'll be Slim J taking on Black Baron, the Imbra, who's made an impact at FIP and Tier 1 in New York and traveled all over the place. He also teams fairly regularly with Prince Apollo and Why We Wrestle under the name The Monarchy, as they are royal descendants, apparently. And so that's going to be a hell of a match. That's a match a lot of purist wrestling fans have been looking forward to seeing. But if I may be a little partial, the match I'm looking most forward to seeing is my own. Not a big shocker there, but after what happened just last week with us getting left laying by the Southern Bastards crew, I got a little revenge on my mind. And you know, Andrew, it's a scary thing when that starts happening. And so the rejects are primed and ready, and I've got the Deadly Sin 7, and I've got Death's Wish Brad Cash, and they are chomping at the bit to get a hold of Bobby Moore and Wade Adams, and Logan Chase and Cyrus, throw them in there too. But we're going to get our revenge. It's going to be a tag team match, and all hell is going to break loose on the 23rd. You don't want to miss that either. We've also got the Viking War Party coming in. They have ran amok all over the country as well. They're one of the fastest rising tag teams around, and they had a great showing in the tournament, but they did not walk away with a victory. Now they face a team who also had a great showing in the tournament. First round walked out with a victory, but the second round did not, and that would be the Lynch Mob, the Brothers Lynch, Matt and Joey. And they will be taking on the Viking War Party. So you've got these crazy berserkers coming to pillage and plunder against the high-flying Lynch boys with their karate antics and kicks to the face. So it's going to be one hell of a match, and I really hope people get out there to check that one out.
Well, I'm going to pull for the Lynch Mob in that just because there's some ties to the old Empire with Joey Lynch being the reigning, yet not defending Empire Heavyweight Champion. So hopefully they'll do some big things, not only in that match, but going forward at While We Wrestle, and I'm sure they will.
The Lynch Mob are making their rounds. They appear tonight at Mucha Lucha, which is co-promoted by Lucha Underground in Atlanta, Georgia. So they're getting in front of some big audience. Those Lucha Libre cards tend to draw very good houses because they appeal to a totally different demographic. They're basically appealing to the Latin community that is transplanted in the region where they promote, in this case Atlanta. They do touring shows all over the country. And because of that, they've managed to tap right in. So it's just like they're at home getting their Lucha Libre, and they come out to the matches and they draw, Unfortunately, American independent wrestling hasn't been able to find that except for some select places, but it's high time that resurgence came back in Georgia. So hopefully one of these promotions will spearhead it. Hopefully While We Wrestle, but there's plenty of others as well.
Yeah, I think independent wrestling, it seems kind of throughout the country, but especially in Georgia, it's been pretty hot. Been on a little bit of a hot streak, a little bit of an uprise in the past, kind of couple of years. I think it's getting back to a better place. Maybe some fans had a bit of a bad taste in their mouth from a couple of years gone by, especially in the area that we live in North Georgia. I know it's a little different in that Atlanta section of the country, but everything seems to be doing well for everybody, and I'm glad.
Yeah, it's 2016. That's a good segue into kind of what I wanted to just chat about here tonight. Have a little rap about 2016. Perhaps the best year to be in the wrestling business since we've been in it as an independent guy, up and coming. Now, not necessarily for us because we're on the backside of things. You more so than me, but both of us, are not the youngest people on the roster. But, for guys coming up looking for an opportunity, working hard, it's there. The whole foundation of wrestling is about to be shaken when WWE does this draft here on Tuesday night, because what's that going to do? That frees up spots in NXT. They also have to fill out 3 rosters now, 4 if you count the Cruiserweight Classic. There's more opportunities for guys than ever. And, I'm not the biggest fan of all the modern styles, but there's something for everybody at least. You can find what you want. And if you can't find what you want, it's the era of the self-made man. Go out there and give it to the people. You have the internet now. You have Kickstarter. You have the ability to reach people. If you have something that you want to put out there that you don't see is out there, and you think it's going to make money or be a viable thing, then why not try it? Because that's the world we live in now, and it's just a mind-blowing thing where things you never thought you'd see or even imagine to be possible are happening. Like me getting mentioned on the WWE Network, but not just that, the fact that they now acknowledge, like you remember for years, there was this stigma against them acknowledging anything that did not exist outside of their realm. But now they've embraced the whole body of wrestling as this one universe, for lack of a better word. And, for those who can't see the forest for the trees and are too worried about sitting and bitching about what they're doing on TV, you're going to be doing that while guys who are out here busting their asses get opportunities to get paid by them.
Yeah, because, the thing is, and this isn't, sour grapes or anything, this is just the truth. This is a much better time to be getting started in the wrestling business than when we did. Because when we got started, not only did ECW and WCW go out of business within a 3-month span of time, they did not want wrestlers. They did not want independent talent at all. They wanted collegiate athletes, football players, and bodybuilders. That's just the bottom line. That's just how it was. So now it seems that all they really want are wrestlers. They want guys that have independent wrestling experience, and they want guys that know how to actually work a little bit and tell a bit of a story and connect with an audience and get over with the crowd and that have traveled and things such as that. And that just simply was not the case when you and a lot of the guys that we got in the business with or come up with, that just wasn't happening then. So if you're a younger guy, you have a much better opportunity right now.
Because the objective for most all guys is to get there. So when we were coming up, we were trying to do what was necessary to get there at that time. And, there was a box that we just didn't fit into. So there wasn't the incentive to go out there and beat the doors down, even though I did for many, many years. I've worked in every state in the South. I have worked in the Midwest. I never branched out to the Northeast just due to my own accord, though I should have, because I've got a hell of a following up in Philadelphia in particular. But it's like it's there for the taking now. I don't know what more incentive you guys need to not get out there. Hell, I'm, like I always say, I consider myself semi-retired if an opportunity doesn't come along in the next few years that's going to, secure me in wrestling for a while. But I'm still out here making, every weekend and making money. So it's a damn good time to be in the business. You know, we can bitch and moan about the little things, and that's why the guys like Les Thatcher and the teachers are there, because that's their job. Their job is to teach. So let them teach, and the rest of us find out what works now. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a minute. We always say the business has changed. We've just given one example of how, but in so many other ways, in 2016, the business has changed for the better. There's a lot of easy targets on where it's changed for the worse. We've bemoaned them many, many times. But in 2016, how has it changed for the better? And I think there's a lot of, if you're just splitting hairs here and looking at both sides of the coin, there's a lot of things that you can point to. For one, guys aren't dropping dead every 5 seconds. That's a big thing. You know, that's good to see. I loved to raise hell as much as anybody in my day, and given the opportunity when my responsibilities are not in front of my face to handle at that very moment, I will still tie one on and get crazy from time to time, but I'm older and more responsible now, so I don't get to do that as often. But I certainly don't do anything that would endanger my life. And unfortunately, too many of our brothers and patriarchs and mentors and heroes and whatever you want to call them died too young because they chased the devil, and eventually they got burned, you know, and it sucks. But I'm happy to see the culture of the business just changing overall to be a situation where I don't think that's going to be the norm in the next generation of guys.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's going to be nowhere near the problem. I mean, for starters, you just can't get away with stuff like that anymore. You can't raise hell, and you can't do things the way you could in the 70s and 80s and even most of the 90s, you know, because technology just won't allow it. Now, if you do something crazy, someone is going to film you doing it, and you're going to get arrested and sued or fired or a little bit of all of those things. So that alone has changed the business as far as the things you just mentioned. But, yeah, I mean, you can't, you know, especially in a bigger company, you just can't perform injured anymore, you know, pretty much at all. You know, a lot of times guys will push through injuries that they can anyway physically get in that ring, they will, and that's just not an option really now. I'm sure there's still times where guys would love to be able to do that, but they can't. And really, yeah, it sucks, and I've been in a position, I've worked hurt, we've all worked hurt, but we shouldn't. Like, it's pretty stupid thing to do. So it is good that, you know, like I said, in most larger companies, that's something that's not allowed anymore, so guys can at least somewhat stay healthy, because on the cons list, the style has changed so much that guys are taking a lot more bumps and things like that. So it may be harder for them to stay healthy. So it's good that they have a little bit of a plan in place to where guys are forced to take the proper time off they need.
Yeah, I would agree. Eddie Lane, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've said this a number of times. I started training in an era and came up in an era where it was pretty much the norm to Saturday night show's over. Let's go to the nudie bar. Oh, let's go to the nightclub. Oh, let's go hang out. Let's go get bombed by the bombed. I was trying not to say blown, but it ended up trying to come out that way. Why? I don't know. Blown away would be the word. And yeah, in this day and age, you have to be a hell of a lot more discreet, because this is where I'm happy about some things that have been done. You know, shows like the Midnight Black Mass, To Be Determined show, the Shooters Gallery. We have a penchant for acting like the classroom, where we will offer up personal experience on how to point people in the right direction. And I'm glad to see some people do listen. The numbers don't lie, because you can't in this era because it's like Andrew said a minute ago, somebody's going to video your dumb ass. And promoters nowadays listen to the public a little bit more and watch for public perception. So even if you can get away with doing some things in the privacy of your own home or your car or your hotel room, people have become a little bit more some people have become more discreet about doing it in the public forum. Because the three of us know firsthand from watching other people and sometimes the things that we ourselves have done, that the one court you can never sway is the court of public opinion. And sometimes that court of public opinion is enough to get you bounced from a card. And you were segueing for a hot second, you were talking about the renaissance in this world of pro wrestling. And that's the word I've adopted all over again because it seems like, here we go, let's have some more fun. People have a unique ability to dream, but leave the dream to die. Where in 2016, all of us have opportunities to move in an upward direction. Remember, for years, WWE was known as the land of the giants. If you weren't 6'4", 260 and jacked, you didn't have a ghost of a chance. Now, you've got cruiserweights, 205 and below and above. NXT isn't the land of the giants. Raw and SmackDown aren't the land of the giants anymore. You've got some huge guys that still work there. Big Cass, 7-footer. But still, Enzo, not 7 foot. And you have that many more venues. And you have promoters that are doing good business nowadays. Not all of them, but more. Because you have the opportunity to see how business should be, and the fact that the competition's getting more and more stiff every month. You're right. It's a damn good time to be in the world of pro wrestling. As long as you, sorry Triple H, I have to steal the phrase, know how to play the game. Rev?
That's all 100% truth and new American gospel from Fast Eddie Lane here on the Midnight Black Mass. The opportunities are out there, guys. Go get them. Another thing I like to see in 2016 that I never thought I would say, honestly, is that I've become a huge fan of women's wrestling. I love that the women have stepped up and tried to steal the show and become something new and different and evolved instead of just being the same old thing. No disrespect to the late, great, fabulous Moolah or Mae Young or any of those great, tough ladies who did a wonderful job, but they had a very unique style that was very succinct to women's wrestling. It was very much based around the fact that it was two women in the ring and not that it was necessarily an athletic contest. So there were a lot of tropes that you went to that frankly wore thin over time because there's only so many times you can do anything in wrestling and it still have the same effect that it did the first time. And so to see things like the wave of women that came up from NXT, your Paiges, your Charlottes, your Becky Lynches, women that can go in the ring and being given the opportunity to do that, that's a step towards equality that we haven't seen in the wrestling business. Let's just be honest, the wrestling business is always about 20 years behind the rest of the world when it comes to keeping up. Of course, MMA has had this huge success with female fighters, so, why wouldn't wrestling feature them as well? So now is the time, and I've really enjoyed becoming a fan of that, which is something I never thought I'd say.
Yeah, that's changed by leaps and bounds, and it's changed for the better. And now, a lot of times, all the time now, you have to be talented. You can't just be a hot chick. You just can't be a little bit of TNA. You have to have some sort of talent. You have to bring something to the table, especially if you're going to last for, more than a year. If you're going to stick around and actually be able to earn a living, you've got to be able to go. And like the women you just named, and I know there's women on the independent scene and women in Japan that they can wrestle. I've seen several shows in the past year where the best match of the night was the women's match. Just point blank. Honestly, you'd be hard-pressed to go back and watch WrestleMania and not say that those three women in the women's title match didn't steal the show. I think they did. And that's a show that had AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho and Triple H versus Roman Reigns, The Undertaker, and a Hell in a Cell. Like, a lot of good stuff on that show, and I really think that the women probably stole it, and that's pretty amazing to say.
It just shows you where we are in the world now, you know, for all of the things that we don't like about modern wrestling. It's still good to see that there are things that are positive. As I mentioned, in 2016 is the year of, as Fast Eddie said, it's a renaissance. I really feel like the business is moving in a different direction. And of course, we mentioned the Cruiserweight Classic. That's 32 guys that they snatched up. Now, not all of them 32 guys are going to get full-time contracts.
To have.
But I guarantee you that a good bit of them get a few more dates with them at least, and up their value when they go back out on the independent scene. So it's now more than ever this giant symbiote circle where the WWE, everything they do, and it always has, but everything they do rolls downhill. So you'll see that impact. You're talking about the women, of course. Now that there's popular women in the WWE who are carrying it up in the ring, they're inspiring young women to go do the same. So the independent scene is now flourishing with great female independent talent. It's a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, women have been fighting for equal rights for, you know, a long, long time. I think they're finally getting it, so maybe they can pick up a check every now and then.
Hey, Dan, if I could, you were making a reference to a couple of, I'm trying to slide in that a couple of them did actually get picked up. Kota Ibushi, who a lot of people do consider to be one of the best high flyers in the world, has apparently signed an NXT level deal, it has reported. Ibushi wrestled at Thursday night's NXT TV tapings to signal an increase in his involvement with WWE beyond the Cruiserweight tournament. Also, it's being reported that Gran Metalik, also known as Mascara Dorada down in Mexico, or Mascara Dorada, however you want to pronounce it, has also agreed to a deal with WWE following his debut in the Cruiserweight tournament. So they are picking up some of these guys.
Yeah, and I've heard this rumor they're going to be signing, you know, even more in addition to that. But to pick up two after the debut episode that only featured 8 guys, I mean, that's a fourth of the talent that premiered on that show have already been signed. And I'm sure they're going to get some reactions from the fans, and they're going to see some things in some more guys out of those 32, and some more guys are going to get picked up.
Well, let's talk about that Cruiserweight Classic for a minute. The presentation, man, the presentation, sometimes it's just all about presentation, baby. And the Cruiserweight Classic had this unique new presentation for a WWE product that immediately made it stand out from everything else they were doing. And it was treated very on the nose and very serious. And it had almost like a big fight, like UFC or a pro boxing type feel to it. I thought Renaro and Bryan Danielson were tremendous on the commentary. You know, if you're a fan of just like let's treat wrestling as much as a sport as we can treat it, then you were in hog heaven in that Cruiserweight Classic, because they did something really special with that, I thought, just in the presentation alone.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that could be used going further that they've done from that. I mean, I'm not going to, just being honest with my opinion, I did enjoy it very much, and I'm looking forward to watching future episodes of it. I do think that we're probably going to see a backlash of internet wrestling fans saying that it should be like that all the time, and they should every match should be presented that way. And I definitely don't think that's the case. I think that's part of what makes it special, is that we haven't seen it, especially in such a long time. But I really don't think that style could be presented as the norm and it be effective and last. I don't think it would be popular for the casual fan all the time. I mean, just if every episode of Raw and SmackDown was presented like that it was, I don't think that would be the answer for a better product either. But I think a once-a-year tournament, or maybe even more, or maybe somehow integrate it to where you have 1 or 2 matches like that on a show would be great. But that's just just playing devil's advocate and showing the other side of the coin. That because obviously we're all fans of what we saw, but that's what I thought going with it. I was like, people are going to want this all the time, but they're not going to do it, obviously, but they really shouldn't either, because I really think that it would lose its luster. I mean, do you agree with any of that?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it would. I mean, like the big issue is that it immediately separated that brand, which we're hearing is going to be a 4th brand now, that it's not just going to be a once-a-year tournament, but it will be an ongoing program series on the network. It's just, really, Triple H has talked for a long time about it being the reality era in the Fed, but I don't think anything summed it up better than that. Just, the way the promos were done, and if the business evolves to promos like that all the time, then I'm out of a job, because I'm totally on the opposite end of that. I'm in the over-the-top character era of the promos, and luckily they still do plenty of that, but I think that's what separates that Cruiserweight Classic brand, and so it is a niche to the fan that wants to see that. But with success, will you see some of those elements carry over to the other brands? I wouldn't be surprised, but you can't eliminate your Undertakers or your Enzo Amores or your Steve Austins or, just your litany of the great characters that have made WWE what it is. And in that type of presentation, they come off, those characters would come off out of place. Makes sense?
Yeah, I agree. And I had not heard that this was going to become a type of 4th brand. Yes,
I have heard that. Now, it may not be true, but, it's the internet, so everything on the internet's true, right? but that's what I've heard, and, would be a huge opportunity for a lot of guys in the business.
Yeah, it definitely would be. I mean, I definitely hope, whatever they do with it, I hope they do something to incorporate the style and the I don't know if once a year would be enough. Because we say once a year, but it seems the episodes of this are going to go probably around 3 months, so that's a big chunk of the year to see it. But hopefully they do something in addition with it. I've heard rumors that maybe this will be the thing that finally brings back the Cruiserweight title, and I've been all for that for a long time now, but I thought about it, and I don't even know if that's the best idea now, because what made me think of that is when I watched Finn Balor versus Nakamura, and they announced Finn Balor, and they said weighing in at 190 pounds. Now, you're telling me that if you brought back the Cruiserweight title and you brought Finn Balor up to the main roster, which I think will happen in approximately 2 days, you want to see him become the Cruiserweight champion? Do you really not want to see this guy get a chance to go after the World Heavyweight title at some point? Because, yes, you can go from a Cruiserweight to a Heavyweight in the WWE, but it's damn near a miracle. So do you really want to pigeonhole some of these guys who, like we've said, the business has changed. Most of the guys that you see could fall into that Cruiserweight category. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, younger guys like Neville and Sami Zayn. These guys are great talents that I could see main eventing pay-per-views one day, but if they're in that Cruiserweight division, that's simply not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And with Balor, I think his presence and his whole shtick and gimmick is so powerful with the audience that, I wouldn't think he would end up in that, but you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, I think he's the guy, he'll get over no matter what happens, as long as he's given any sort of a chance. It'll work, but that's just an example. A good example, I think, because, 190 pounds, that's pretty small. He does have a huge presence. He's a great talent, but in the WWE in the WWE and on the main roster, 190 pounds, that's a small guy. I mean, look at when AJ Styles got on there and he's working with Chris Jericho, who was seen as a small guy, and he looked considerably smaller. And obviously he's done great things in the short time he's been there, but that's just hard to do. And not everyone's going to be able to do it. Even all the talent in the world, they're not going to have enough spots where they say, yes, let's have our whole roster consist of 200-pound guys. It's just not going to happen. And nor should it. I mean, I'm not, we need the big guys. We need big athletic guys with, the huge muscles and the larger-than-life presence. That has to stay around in the business, too. I'm not one for taking that away at all either. So I just don't know if the cruiserweight title, because that's just been so heavily rumored with the brand split and this Cruiserweight Classic so far being a huge success. I just don't know if that's a good thing to actually happen.
You could see pluses and minuses, but certainly on the positive end, I mean, if you're just looking for comparison to what WCW did with the cruiserweights and how much success they had introducing them to the undercard of the brands, which would, set the tone for the night, and it'd be crazy, but, I always bought it in the cruiserweight setting way more than you would just, on indies, where it's just any number of random matchups you could find. Because in a cruiserweight setting, I always felt like, well, they're smaller, so they got to do more to make an impact because it's not, 300 pounds coming behind a punch. So, there was some, suspension of disbelief logic that really worked there. And I think it could possibly work again if they sold it right.
Yeah, you're right. There's huge positives, huge negatives. One thing you mentioned, and I want to back up, too, I thought the commentary was really good on that. I thought Brian Danielson would be good at it, but I thought he was really good at it. I mean, he showed up prepared to work, and I was pretty impressed with that.
Oh, he was there to win, man. I felt bad for the guy having to retire, and as everybody else did, it was just one of the big wrestling tragedies. Not that anybody passed away or anything, but that one of the best wrestlers of the last 2 decades. And a top money drawing star in his prime was cut down by an injury like that. So to see him get another opportunity is a feel good story anyway, but to see him excel at it and show that he's clearly got a future in the business, doing something besides being in the ring and clearly loving it. You could tell he was having a time of his life doing it. That's really cool. That's a feel good story for me.
Yeah, it definitely is. I hope. I assume it'll happen, but I definitely hope it happens. I hope this guy's around until he just absolutely does not want to be. I hope he has just a long, long career doing whatever, commentary, agenting. I've said from the day they announced the draft that he will be the guy in charge of SmackDown, and I finally saw that rumor pop up last week, but I thought that from the whole time. So hopefully whatever he does or wants to do, I hope he's allowed to do it because, like he said, super talented. And I mean, was there really a guy more over than him since the Austins and the Rocks? I mean, I know Cena's hugely popular, but he even has that whole 50-50 thing where there's a lot of people in the crowd that do not get behind him. I mean, Daniel Bryan was absolutely on fire like we had not seen in a decade.
Now, nobody was booing Daniel Bryan, period. And that's not to discount Cena, but, there's just this weird dichotomy with the wrestling fans now that still perplexes me because these guys are smart. Not smart to the business because everybody is now. But they're smart people in most cases. If you follow some of them online, you see that they're fairly intelligent, well-spoken individuals. But when it comes to wrestling, like the one I really don't get, and I've said this before on the show, I'm like, okay, if you're in the know and you understand what's going on, and you're a huge fan of this particular heel. Now, this heel is hoping that the crowd boos him So if you're cheering for him, you're not doing any favors, even though you're showing your support. If you're truly smart, wouldn't the appropriate thing to do be to boo the heel, and maybe put on, you want to be part of the show, the fans all want to be part of the show now, and that just seems to be the way it is. Wrestling has kind of become self-aware, and, with other, like, online fan communities, you see they've kind of created this whole sub-universe of fandom that actually goes back into the product, and that's kind of what's happened now. So fine if you want to do that. That's great, actually. It's led to so much creativity and hilarious memes and what the fuck else ever. There's all, the world is your oyster. But wouldn't it make more sense to boo them, even if it was a put-on, because you knew that's what they were hoping to achieve? And if you were a fan of them, is that not what you would want to do? Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. But that, people say we talk about that happening now, but that's really been around a long time. I mean, looking back to the NWO is kind of when it started being a real thing, but it happened before then. Guys have been turned babyface or turned heel because people just didn't buy it. I mean, Jake the Snake Roberts was a heel in the WWF in the 80s, and people quickly just said, they were like, no, this guy's awesome. We love him. We're not booing him. And, they did the double turn with him and Honky Tonk Man, basically, because the Honky Tonk Man was supposed to be a babyface, even them going so far as to have Hulk Hogan endorse him to try to get it to work. And people just were not having it. So that's kind of been around forever. I think it's just a lot more prominent now. And, of course, with the Internet where everyone can state their opinion loud and proud, we're aware of it a lot more. So I don't think that's a new thing, but I definitely think you're right. I think if you want to support your heel, you should do so by booing him because that's their job.
That was just always perplexed me, but what do I know? It's interesting. It's not damning anybody. Do what you want. I mean, it's like I said, it's 2016. It's all out there, and it belongs to everybody now, but still, like, think about that. Next time you're cheering your heel, you heel fans.
While we're on that subject, I found it kind of interesting that, is it just me or is John Cena? Because when John Cena and AJ Styles began to feud, I instantly thought, yeah, this isn't going to work very well because people are not going to get behind John Cena in this battle at all. And I don't think it's been as bad as one would expect, or has been in the past. Am I wrong? Or, I mean, John Cena's getting some really positive reactions in this thing. And
they're just... Oh, go ahead.
No, I kind of think that it's a little bit of Roman Reigns' fault / praise to him because it's a good thing, because I think people are like so much on the let's boo Roman Reigns, fuck Roman Reigns bandwagon that they're like, yeah, Cena's not that bad compared to this guy. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to do it twice in one night or at one show, so they're like, oh, we'll cheer for Cena.
Well, it's like, okay, now, no, this is really what it looks like when somebody is pushed down our throats. I see. I think it was just a comparison there. Like, we were mistaken. But, and that's like, I think Roman Reigns is a fucking awesome talent, and I think, if you're just picking guys out of a camp for a roster, he'd be a top guy, but it's just the circumstance was his enemy, unfortunately, and he's a talented guy, and I'm sure he'll bounce back from all of that. But folks, we're winding down, so I just want to thank everybody for joining us. It's been a hell of an episode, a hell of a chat about the state of affairs of wrestling in 2016 in these United States and beyond. Just getting my plugs out of the way real quick. You can follow me on Twitter at Dragons Rejects. You can follow me on Instagram at Dragons Rejects. You can find me on Facebook at Rev Dan the Dragon Wilson. Quick rundown of the dates again. I'll be in Cornelia, Georgia, July 23rd for the big setup. All the final matches for Summer of Hate will be announced in addition to the big main events that we've already announced for the card. And then you don't want to miss that. July 30th will be Summer of Hate, the first ever While We Wrestle branded spectacular that will be featured and headlined by Strychnine defending the While We Wrestle title against Anthony Henry, Gunnar Miller versus Michael Judas, and the tag team title three-way Dance the Hooligans, Dark City Fight Club, and Billy Buck and James Drake. And then on August 5th and 6th, I'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the Scenic City Invitational, two-night tournament featuring 16 of the best wrestlers in the United States, possibly the world. And then August the 20th, I will be in Knoxville, Tennessee for Knoxville Warzone or Warzone Knoxville. That will be at the Boys and Girls Club of Halls Powell. Got that name confused there. With a whole host of stars, including former WWE, ECW, WCW star, Too Cold Scorpio, who ain't going to walk to school. He's going to step on August the 20th, Warzone Wrestling, but the Rev. And Tank and Brad Cash will be there also representing the Devil's Rejects. Don't want to miss that card. Still looking likely I will be. There's been a scheduling conflict for Dragon Con this year. It will be on September 1st, Thursday night, now a new night. And so they switched the wrestling schedule at Dragon Con, so I'm still working out my own scheduling issues. But as of right now, I'm advertised to be there, and I hope to not let my fans down. The thousands of you who supported me at Dragon Con for many years and even got me inducted into the Dragon Con Hall of Fame, I appreciate you, and I hope to be there on September 1st. I'll keep you posted. That's what's going on with me. Andrew, where can they see you?
Oh, I will. I am scheduled to appear at a bar mitzvah on August 1st. It's a bar mitzvah for a little Jewish boy. He's my dentist's son. So I'll be going to that. And you can check me out at a huge hot dog eating contest up in the Chattanooga area. That's going to be August 17th. Other than that, I think I'm pretty much going to be no fucking where. So that's all my plug.
It's Fast City Lane.
Let's see. Starting with yesterday, thank you again to Rob and Pam for the honor of being the DJ for your wedding reception. I really appreciate it. Had a great time, and thank you all for the very kind words who came up to say hi. A couple of people actually recognized the fat man behind the microphone. It's like, I'm humbled, and I'm flattered, and I'm appreciative. For me personally, it's going to be a hell of a week. For those in my home market of Birmingham, look forward to seeing everybody this coming Friday night, Buffalo Wild Wings in Alabaster, Friday night karaoke. If you like to sing, if you know someone who does, or if you just look for a great place to get the hell out of the house and have a little fun, I'll see you at B-Dubs in Alabaster this coming Friday. For me personally, my roads are going to start heading toward Pell City, Alabama, Saturday night, July the 30th, with Global Championship Wrestling Red, White, and Bruised 2016. GCW Radio will be returning this coming Tuesday night, July the 19th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, and Back to Basics will be bumped to 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Oh, by the way, we started the NASCAR running gag last week just as a lark. Gotta love it. Next weekend, if Dale Jr. is not cleared to drive, Jeff Gordon comes out of retirement for one day and one day only. Okay, laugh now. Okay, that's enough. No, but seriously.
Our knowledge of NASCAR is limited to that South Park episode.
See, that's why I called it the running gag. And for me personally, I'm about to go back and put my steak back on the grill for about 5 minutes, let it heat up on about 4 minutes per side, and I'm gonna kill some more beef.
Killing beef at midnight Eastern time on a Sunday.
Hell yes.
What about you, Fast Eddie? What about you? Well, it's been an honor and a privilege to speak to you people tonight. I have quite enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold for Fast Eddie Lane and Andrew Alexander. I am the Rev Dan Wilson. Good night.